Unsyndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
He's Matt Shepard. I'm Sean Baligian. I'm getting it out of the way right now. AJ Hinch, manager of the decade. Go, Shep.
Yeah, I don't think he gets enough credit. Probably Chris Fetter either. I think they've done a great job. They understand that this team is limited, but he's found the right proverbial buttons to push. I think guys like Matt Vierling go under the radar. I'm not even sure we appreciate Riley Green as much as we probably should. Betting, hitting 24 homers and tied for fourth in the American League in the month with home runs. His ability to put in McKinstry at the right time, use Trey Sweeney at the right time. I think he's done a fantastic job. I would guess Matt Cottrero would get it for Kansas City, and I would have no problem with that. But AJ Hinch is making a late season push, and he sure as hell deserves some strong consideration, Sean.
One of my biggest problems, Shep, in our business is, as you know, and I'll never forget. That's why I love things like that. Yeah. I just don't understand why people don't do homework, and maybe I'm too geeky. I don't know. Maybe it's a me thing. Mm-hmm. If you're paying attention to what the Tigers have done in the last month and what they have done it with, Bo Brisky pitches every day. I mean, seriously, the guy, I was joking earlier today, Shepard, a potential series against the Astros would go something like Skubal v. Verlander, and then Brisky starts game 2 and game 3. Right? I mean,
You've got guys in there who you don't even know, right? I mean, there was a conversation, I'm sure, amongst us about, 3 weeks ago. Do they bring up a guy like Jackson Jobe? Instead, they've made it work, Sean. They've made it work. Nobody knew who Trey Sweeney was before. The only reason you knew Jace Young is because the Tigers drafted him. It's not like you followed him at Texas Tech, right? How many people buried Spencer Torkelson? How many people at the beginning of the year, Sean, buried Parker Meadows? Okay. So these guys have all come together. They've done a really nice job. And I think the key word here is believe. They believe, coaches believe, obviously, and now fans truly believe. So it's kind of a glorious thing to see. Minnesota gets walked off by Cleveland yet again today. So a half game difference. I would argue this. Tell me what you think of this. Everybody knows they're 25-10 over the last 35. It's the best 35 game stretch they've had since 2013. Okay. They've won 8 straight games against the division on the road. They have 41 road wins now, which is impressive, right? The ERA during that stretch of 35 games is barely above 2. It's best in the majors. And I'm not talking about starters. I'm talking about all pitchers. Okay? Sure. Forget Minnesota for a second. You can even forget Kansas City if you want to. Are they a threat in the American League? And I don't say that with hyperbole. I don't say that because we're Tigers fans. I'm talking about who's the best playing baseball team right now. It's Detroit.
I don't know how you could argue it. Honestly, I don't know if, the playoffs come around and what's the old saying? You're too young and dumb to realize that you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if people just, think that, okay, the playoffs start, so everything that happened before then is just supposed to fall apart. Nick says, to your point, Shepard, the Tigers getting hot at the perfect time. I'll give you the flip side of that. The 2006 Tigers, the season was over that Sunday. They blew that lead to the Royals, right?
Right.
It was a foregone conclusion that the Yankees were just going to spank that ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It was just foregone conclusion. And it is amazing to me, Shep, from a game. Jack and I were at that game that Sunday afternoon. They lost the Royals. What was it? 14 innings or whatever. It was like, I'm not being disrespectful. It was like being in a morgue. There was silence. And 6 days later, the spontaneous celebration that started when we beat the hell out of the Yankees, I think these people that think that things are just going to carry over one way or the other, I don't think they're paying attention. A lot of it has to do with what you just said and what Nick just said, getting hot at the right time and having that belief structure that, okay, we're cool. We went through a bad time or we're going through a good time, but, we understand we're a pretty good ball club.
Yeah, tell me what team doesn't go through a bad stretch.
Sure.
I don't care if you're looking at Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, who's going through it right now, by the way. They've lost 7 of their last 10, even though they won today against San Francisco. Atlanta, the Dodgers, all the teams have gone through a rough stretch. They haven't gone through this type of cruise control, feel-good feeling right now that the Tigers are. But when you're getting that type of pitching and you're getting that belief at the same time. Like, are they the best offensive team? Hell no. Are they the best pitching team? Probably not. Are they the best managed team? You can make the argument. But to his point, Nick saying, are they getting hot at the right time? Absolutely. Look at the rest of their games. Originally, you and I look at this, we're like, oh, you're not beating Baltimore right at Camden Yards. You're not going to win that series. Oh, really? Not now? You're going to take care of Tampa, you would guess. Chicago mailed it in. They licked that stamp a long, long time ago. They have the easiest stretch down the stretch compared to anybody.
No doubt. Mr. Positive said, go Tigers. Hey, Shep, baby. Mr. Positive, Detroit Radio, National Radio, and TV. Appreciate you. Tom Young, I will never live this down 15 years later. Is Minnesota and Kansas City doing simple math? I will never live that down. The funny thing is everybody forgets, Shep, that in 2011, we went through the same process again. And our late friend, Tom Kowalski, I bet him 100 conies that the Tigers were going to win the division in 2011.
I remember that. I remember that.
100. I had beaten Ryan Ermani for 100 the season before. It's like taking candy from a baby, getting conies from that guy with Michigan football. But love you, Ryan. But Killer and I bet 100 conies that he thought that they were going to blow the division away. And as you well know, they ran away with it. And what you just said is amazing because I want to give your buddy, Kurt Gibson, some credit. I'm not saying that it's all hunky-dory with Spencer Torkelson.
Sure.
Clearly, it's between his ears. I know it now. I believe it now, and that's
there
something.
Might have been an adjustment. I don't know it well enough. There might have been an adjustment that he made at Toledo. Maybe it was more than just between the ears. I'm sure that's part of it, but maybe there was an adjustment that he made and he fixed it. Yeah.
Sure. And it's not like, he's still doing this, okay? And that's the crazy thing about this team, okay? Is Sweeney's doing this. Torkelson's doing that. You can go really with the exception of the above aforementioned Riley Green. But when one guy's going like this, the other guy's going like that. And then when he goes like that, it's amazing. It just seems like whenever you need somebody to step up, they're stepping up. And I go back to that Flaherty deal, okay? Boy, how good does that deal look right now? And don't get me wrong.
I mean, I'm sure
if the Dodgers win
the Dodgers are happy that they've got Jack Flaherty. Okay,
well, that's the point I'm making. This could be a win-win. Much like the Matthew Stafford deal. The Rams got their Super Bowl. They already won. The Rams got their Super Bowl. The Lions got a guy who wasn't done and first-round picks. And that's the way that I look at this. If this Sweeney turns out to be anything, and especially the way this kid's raking in the minor leagues, all of a sudden a deal that it seemed like 9 out of 10 people were shitting on, pardon my language, 9 out of 10 people were shitting on, all of a sudden this looks like a pretty good deal for the Tigers.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Sweeney's only hitting 2 1/4. I don't know what we expect from him. Anything was an improvement over Baez, so I'll give you that. He looks the part. The kid down in the minors, I'm going to reserve judgment. I'd still rather have Jack Flaherty right now, especially if you're making a push toward the postseason. But I'm with you. Look, Spencer Torkelson had a 7-game hit streak. That's pretty damn good. Like you said, you've got guys going up, you got guys going down. That's going to happen, and that's why this team is managed so well, because you're seeing they don't have the guys, right? It's not like their lineup is Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, Atlanta, Los Angeles. They don't have these guys. They don't have those dudes. So it's got to be a matchup, a feel, a little bit of sabermetrics involved there, right? analytics, whatever you want to call it. I think that's why AJ Hinch has done such a wonderful job with this. He's pushing those right buttons, and it's not just with the guys who are hitting, it's the guys that he's reaching in the bullpen too. Yeah.
Skydog said, who did they get for Flaherty? It was Theron, Lorenzo, and Trey Sweeney.
Right.
And
he's a catcher who's tearing it up in the minors. Yeah.
And again, let's just take this for what it's worth. It's early, but if this Sweeney kid continues, I mean, a lot of people thought that he was just a throw-in. He was the 22 rated prospect, and right now, again, consider where he's at. But Lorenzo's lighting it up right now, so that's a pretty cool thing. Hey, very quickly, let me talk about All About Catering. All About Catering LLC is a full service caterer, graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today to see their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. You know what I was talking about earlier, Shep? As God is my witness, and you and I have probably talked about this over the course of time, I went to that miserable Game 3 at Comerica Park almost 10 years ago now, when the Orioles finished the sweep of the Tigers.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in that park and like being miserably depressed. I'm not joking, because I knew it was over. I knew that run that started in 06 was delayed until 11. You knew in that moment, nobody wanted to admit it, okay?
Right.
But you knew it was over for a myriad of reasons. And I think I had mentioned to you, at the exact same moment that the Tigers were being eliminated, the Bills kicked a field goal to knock off the Lions right next door at Ford Field. And that's, I almost said something bad. Jim Schwartz begged his players to carry him off the field at that exact same moment. Like, I'll never forget all these people walking out of Ford Field, and I'm like, oh, that's not a good sign. And, you know, they were doing the March of Shame that we've seen far too many times out of Ford Field. And I looked and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The loser hit like a 50-something yard field goal. But the reason why I bring that up, like, Shep, this town, and yours truly, I forgot how much fun this is.
I saw you tweet that the other day. Yeah.
No, I forgot how much fun this is. Yeah. Flipping the channels, watching the other game, flipping this and watching that game, and the almost at-bat drama, every at-bat drama in these games. I really forgot how much fun it is to be a part of this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. The only thing I would say is it's been 40 years, and I am not going to start feeling really, full of myself inside and all happy and glowy because they're making September interesting. I want division titles. I want world championships. This team has 4. That's it. 4 championships, and they deserve more, and the city deserves more, and the fan base deserves more. I'm not going to get lost in, wow, we're watching interesting September baseball for the first time since 2016. Or 2014, however you want to phrase it.
I didn't buy it.
I'm tired, man. I want more, and I think it's fair to say we've waited long enough. So I think it's great for the town. I think it's great for Tigers Nation. I think it gives us something to talk about, which is great. I'm convinced they're going to finish the job and they're going to make the playoffs. I have a higher expectation of the Tigers perhaps than most people. I'm not going to get lost only in September in a 35-game stretch.
I think that not enough is made in this town about how bad the Tigers franchise has been. I really do. I think that not enough is made. The Lions have been crucified forever, and rightfully so. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. The Red Wings went 42 years. This is a franchise right now that hasn't won a playoff game in 11 years. A playoff game. Not a series. Not a series. They haven't won a playoff game in 11 years.
Sean, in addition to that, how they're winning now, which is great, and I give them full marks, but how they're winning now, it's going to show the people that, hey, we can do this way. We don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. And they're going to be able to get away with it. Similar to what Cleveland has done, similar to what Tampa has done. You know, you don't have to have a payroll like San Diego or Los Angeles or Boston or New York to win in baseball. Homegrown good guys. I mean, they've done it, or they've done a really good job. I would also remind people this, as much, and I'm not saying he should be here, and I'm not forgiving the mistakes that he's made because they're glaring. But look at last night's lineup. How many of those guys were brought in by Al Avila? Most of them. All but McKinstry, Sweeney, and I think that's it. Everybody else was an Al Avila guy. Oh, Veerling was the other one. That was Scott Harris. So I'm not making excuses for Al Avila. I'm not saying that he did a good job. I'm just telling you.
I'll say it for you. He was awful.
He had to go. But Green was a good pick. Torkelson's coming back, and that's good. Meadows has proven to be a pretty damn good pick, right? I mean, you've got some guys who are contributing on this team. Tarek Skubal, obviously. Those were drafted under his watch. Again, not saying he should have retained it, but I just don't want people to forget that he had a small part in it. Not what Bill Belichick said about Matt Patricia and the Lions offensive line, for crying out loud, but a small part in helping this team get to where it is today.
That was one of the most delusional things I've heard. And I that is not an overstatement. And God bless Bill Belichick. He's obviously one of the greatest ever. Yeah. All I would tell Bill Belichick is come to one Lions game. One Lions game. And Shep, not even watch the game. Go in the locker room after the game. You and I were there. I'm not I tell the story all the time. I'll never forget walking out of there. It was like the last week of October, and it was like we were at the visitation for a funeral. Yeah. And Lomas and I were walking out of there, and Lomas is shaking his head because he lived it. He was part of some of those locker rooms back in the day. Let's be honest. And I looked at him, and I said to him, I go, Lo, these guys are shot. He goes, Sean, Lomas, Sean, we got 2 more months of this. And like, honestly, right?
Yeah,
End of December. It's at the end of October. We have 2 months and a week left of this. To say that the culture was awful, I think it's being disrespectful to the word culture and to awful. I don't have words to describe how bad it was.
You know what? You can say all you want about the 0-16 Rod Marinelli and the cute catchphrases that he had. At least the players respected him. They just weren't very good, right? Mm-hmm. He wasn't a good head coach. He was a good defensive coordinator, but he's not a good head coach. He never lost their respect. Guys like Jim Schwartz and guys like Matt Patricia, Bob Quinn in the front office, players had no respect for those guys. Jim Caldwell, ultimate respect. Gary Moeller, ultimate respect. Guys like that. I mean, Steve Mariucci, you and I both know they called it Camp Mariucci. It was not a
Camp Happy Times.
But yeah, Camp Happy Times. Right. All that stuff. The Patricia era, I don't know which is worse, the Patricia era or the Schwartz era. Either way, when you walk in the room, we all know who the smartest person in the room was. It was them. Just ask them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No question about that.
Do you remember? I think you were there that first practice, and Mrs. Ford was there. Mm-hmm. And Matt Patricia reminded me of an overbearing high school coach screaming at the newest sophomores to the varsity. The way he was carrying and screaming and swearing. And I'll never forget, we were sitting in those stands out in Allen Park, and like almost instinctively, everybody kind of looked towards the one and only Mike O'Hara, as if to say, Mike, have you ever, in all your years of covering the Lions, nobody had to say to a word to him, but we all looked at him and he goes, nope, never seen anything like this. Yeah. Honestly, I'll never forget, because welcome to the team. And I know that wasn't exactly the first day, but it was the first day of camp. And here's this guy just berating a bunch of veterans, man. How to lose a locker room 101 course. I mean, it was
remember he lost it even before then when he said, I'm a winner. You guys are, in so many words, you guys have been losers, right?
Yeah.
I don't lose and all that other stuff. And the players are like, wait a minute. I mean, not that we were Super Bowl champions, but we did go 9-7 under Jim Caldwell last year.
Right.
I mean, Bob Quinn's your boy. He's the one who got rid of him. They played hard for Jim Caldwell. They loved Jim Caldwell. They
There's no doubt
respected
about
Jim
that.
Caldwell. This guy was an a-hole with a capital A, and players didn't like him, and they just didn't want to play for him.
I will say this to anybody. I always like to try to be fair to people, and I don't know if you ever had a chance to talk to him sideways.
Who?
And I know this is the kind of stuff that people don't want to hear. I thought Matt Patricia away from the field was a great guy. I mean, a great guy.
Listen,
really,
I talked to him.
Truly, nothing personal. I thought he was a great guy.
No, I get it. I did a show with him every year he was there. I did a TV show once a week.
That's true.
I travel with the team. I think he kept the media at bay to a certain extent. There were other guys like Jim Caldwell was very welcoming. Gary Moeller, very welcoming. Rod Marinelli, very willing to talk to you and stuff like that. Patricia, I always felt like was on guard constantly. Always kept you waiting. But you're right. Like during commercial timeouts and all that stuff, talk to him, and he was very engaging about various things, right? But players, in terms of his one-on-one with players and him as a head coach talking to a team, no way did he reach him.
They hated him.
It's really too bad.
They didn't even hide it. I mean, that's the worst part. They didn't even hide
it. Right. Yeah.
Let me talk to you about our friends at Legacy. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. And yes, help save you some money. Doesn't everybody want to do a little bit more of that right now? Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. So what are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today at 586-209-4106 or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Shep, what was your take? You and I haven't had a chance to talk about this. The Lions weren't going 17-0 this year. It wasn't happening. I was almost taken aback at the sky is falling reaction from people last Sunday. Hey, this just in. Tampa's a pretty good team.
Yeah.
What was your take on the loss?
This just in, Seattle beat Detroit in week 2 last year at home as well.
Yeah.
I give Tampa full marks because they played really hard. They played really tough. I know people, the biggest complaint that you and I heard was Detroit's play calling. Throwing it 55 times doesn't work. I don't know if people remember this, but last year against Tampa, I think they threw it 46 times. And beat them in the playoffs. I'm not saying that's the recipe. It's not. I want to see them run the ball too. But I look back on the play-by-play, and I think the key drive, Sean, was the second to last drive of the game for Detroit. Not the last drive. On the last drive, when you got 43 seconds or whatever, you're going to throw it around, right? You're not going to run it. But with 5 minutes and 19 seconds left, I believe, and they're trailing, they're driving, right? So I looked. They ran 16 plays, Sean. 4 runs. I think the reason they only ran 4 runs is because they got negative yardage on 3 of those runs. There's only one of those runs where they actually moved the ball. They drove down the field by throwing it. I don't think they're going to be like that. I'm fully confident that this team, I don't even care if they lose Sunday to Arizona. That's not going to shake my confidence on how good this team is going to be.
I'm with you.
But because Arizona is going to create some problems. But I would say, I think if they had it to do over again, I think there would be a little bit more balance. And I would like to see, Sean, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield at the same time. I've never been one of those guys who feel like, oh, the big question mark for the Lions this year is who's going to be the third wide receiver. I don't give a rat's tail who the third receiver is.
I've said it 100 times. I'm with you. Don't care.
Have you? If you got Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and Montgomery and Gibbs, that's pretty damn good enough for me. So I'd like to see them together a little bit more. How about you?
I thought the play calling was unforgivable in the last drive, obviously before halftime, and to Campbell's credit, he owned it.
Right.
So it happens. You can't expect to be. I was shocked, much like you, in the second to last drive. I thought it almost, and I hate saying this, but I have to call it as I see it, because I have an immense amount of respect for Dan Campbell, and he's earned it. And I have an immense amount of respect for Ben Johnson. He's earned that. And there's a reason why so many people are talking about him being a head coach. But it was almost like, Shep, I don't know, they were ill prepared for the 2-minute drill or something.
I agree.
What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And it's like, time out, man. Come on. Yeah. Like, this is something, the 2-minute drill is something that guys practice constantly. That's not, they have that stuff, better than anybody. They have that. It was weird. It was almost like I was watching an ill-prepared team. And that's why I say I don't want that to sound disrespectful, because obviously they prepared this team. But that's what it looked like to me. And, Tony said, is Goff hurt? We saw shades of Jared Goff last year, whether we want to admit it or not, the old Goff. When he's being hassled, I use the term he sees ghosts. And he turns into that guy that he was at the end of the Rams career. And let's be honest, maybe the first year and a half of his time here, when he's protected, he's a surgeon. Okay. Yeah. But when he's flustered, and let's face it, no quarterback likes to be flustered, okay?
Right. No one.
How a quarterback handles being flustered is another thing. Peyton Manning is almost going, come on, blitz me. I dare you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Jared Goff isn't a guy that handles it real well, Shep. And that's why it's imperative for them to keep him clean.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're getting that pressure with him. I think with Jared Goff, most of it's in his face, and I don't think any quarterback's really good when the pressure's coming in their face. Ask Will Levis of Tennessee. And that's the reason I think so many people – I think that's why so many people love the not the running quarterbacks, but the guys who can get outside the pocket and throw. And I think, Goff can do that to a certain extent, but you and I both know it's not his strength. So, I think they'll look crisper. I think that's the word I used this week, is they just didn't look as crisp as I'm used to seeing them. And I think they'll get back to that. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to win, but I think they'll get back to that. Some of those short arm throws that Goff had, when guys are doing dig routes or whatever, and he's throwing and they're having to slide to make the catch instead. It's almost like, you watch Kirk Cousins the other night. Love what he did at the end of the game to beat Philadelphia, but some of his throws, there was a throw to Drake London across the middle where London's wide open. If he hits him in stride, he's gone for 15 more. Instead, he had to make a sliding catch. It's little throws like that, I think, sometimes that frustrate me with Goff.
I think Skydog is at me when the Lions were at the Tampa Bay 41 and they punted. Why? I think that's one that's always going to be questioned, as well as I do. I think for a lot of people, they're going to say, well, that's Dan Campbell's bread and butter. That's why the guys love him, because he believes in him. And then I guess my response to that would also be, you're damned if you do or damned if you don't, because for every guy like Skydog or Tim and guys like me, because I share the same sentiment, there's going to be the guy that says, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
You go for it there, and you're giving Tampa a short field with the lead. You're a moron. So that's almost like the damned if you. I remember poor Jim Leland going through that so many times, letting JV go 8 1/3, and then he puts in Valverde or whatever the case may be, and you're just damned if you do or damned if you don't.
Exactly. Same with
what are you
Sunday
leaving
lineup.
JV out there for? He's at 111 pitches, dumbass.
I can manage this team. Yeah.
I know, Casey Stengel. You got all the answers. Fucking Connie Mack over here. Pardon my language, but geez.
Hey, real quick.
There's the swear jar.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Before we get rolling, I wanted to ask you about State against BC. I'm pretty fired up about that matchup. I really excited that Michigan State is starting to look more like the Michigan State teams that were successful in the past, beating you up front, running the football to establish some things. They've rushed the ball at least 30 times in each of their first 3 games. I don't know if they're going to beat BC, because BC's done some pretty good stuff, right? Castellanos is a good mobile quarterback. Last year threw for 2,200, rushed for 1,000. But I like the way Michigan State looks so far. And then as far as Michigan and USC, that Miller Moss kid can flat out spin it. That could be another long day for Michigan, knowing that we just don't know what Alex Orji is going to bring to the table. What's your overall thought with Michigan and Michigan State coming up on Saturday?
I'll start in the order that you came. I'm hearing some stuff about Nick Marsh. I hope it's not true. There's a lot of stuff out there that he may be dinged up. We're going to find out what Michigan State is. Now, in fairness, Shep, honest to God, I thought this would be a bowl team this year. Seriously. And it's not because I thought Jonathan Smith was so far ahead of the game. It's the old look at their schedule. I mean, their schedule. They
have a tough 4-game stretch there, though, Sean. I mean, I think you and I talked about this. We thought they'd win 6 games.
Yep.
But I said the difference was Maryland. If they beat Maryland, I thought they'd win 7 games.
Well, here's now. Can I present this though? Much like we talk about the NFL, maybe Indiana isn't the automatic W we thought it was. Maybe That's Illinois. Right. Maybe Illinois isn't the automatic W that I think a lot of people were. We're finding some things out about some. I mean, listen, I know that UCLA's been a crap show for a long time, but for them to fly out there and pound UCLA the way they did, that's a tip of the cap to the Hoosiers. If they can slow down BC's run game, I think they got a really good chance in this game. I think we'll find a lot out about Michigan State. For Michigan, Shep, I brought this up last week. I am flabbergasted that these are the quarterbacks that they have.
Agreed.
I'm flabbergasted.
100%.
It reminds me of 2008 when they had Nick Sheridan and Stephen Threet. Like, honestly, it really, and I'm not even being funny. I mean, these are two guys that
yes, you are. You can't not be funny. It's a Seinfeld line. You can't not be funny. Am I being funny now?
You agree?
You're being funny.
These are two guys that look like they don't belong at this level.
I agree.
It's really weird.
I would just say, let me just say this about Orji. I agree with you for the most part. I haven't seen enough of him to come to that conclusion. I think he's only thrown 6 passes in his college career, which should scare the hell out of people, because I don't care who you are, unless you're Army, Air Force, or Navy, you must be able to throw the football. Because it's only going to help your running game with play action. This is not going to be one of those situations where Alex Orji comes in as a one-off to Davis Warren, and everybody in the entire building knows he's going to run the football right now. Now that you're under center, it's 3rd down and 6. You're going to have to be willing to throw the football with this guy. Let's hope he can find somebody who's A, open, and B, hit him in stride, because right now we haven't seen that.
I'm very impressed. Conversely, I've seen USC twice, and I'm very impressed with USC. They decided that in 2024 they're going to play defense.
Right?
They hadn't played defense for a few years, and
exactly.
I'm impressed with USC. We'll see what happens from there. I said this last week, and it was funny because both Michigan and Michigan fans, some Michigan and some Michigan State fans agreed with me. I think a lot of Michigan State fans are allowing it to creep into their brain. Maybe we can knock them off in Ann Arbor again.
Oh, for sure. They're thinking that right now.
Conversely, I had some Michigan fans admit to me going, oh, no, they're not going to come in and beat us again in Ann Arbor, are they? So it makes it interesting in that regard,
Yep. I'm with you on that. And if you're a Spartan fan, I understand the confidence. And if you beat BC, if you go to Chestnut Hill and beat them, although, their win over Florida State now doesn't look quite as good. But if you go to Chestnut Hill and you beat them, and you start 4-0, why wouldn't you think that?
I watched them. They gave a pretty good Mizzou team a good run last week, too.
Yeah, they did.
Mizzou's pretty good. So
I agree with you.
Before we get out of here, I got a couple people to tell you about. Let me tell you about Lindsay Broadwell. When it's time to sell your house, you're looking, you're selling, both, you need to contact the right agent. Who should you contact? There she is, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you'll ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets in Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. When it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyers, sellers, even first-time buyers, make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She will help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Tim said, that's what I was saying to you about Jim not having a quarterback ready for the season, almost like Jim knew he was leaving. Tim, that is not what you said. Not at all. I mean, for you to change that narrative is actually comical. I'm not going to let you get away with it. What you told me is I was being over emotional and I was ripping on your football team. And I said, what part of what I said was false? Do you like your quarterback play? There is not one Michigan fan, not one, that could conceivably sit back and say, I'm cool with these guys.
No.
And Shep, to that point, I said, if I was a kid at Central Florida or Toledo or Bowling Green or out in the Mountain West, and I saw this debacle at Michigan right now, I would have been on the phone going, you guys need a quarterback? I'd like to play on national TV every week.
Absolutely.
I could go play on national TV.
Just give me a chance to compete. That's all I ask. Give me a chance to compete.
Hold on, Tim. You need to hear this to me. Tim said, go back. I didn't delete anything from that day. Tim, 100% that's a lie. I'll go back when we're done with the show. When
was
we're done
it a text?
Was it a text? Yeah, it's on a change.
Oh,
Tim,
okay.
you said you were going to check out on the show, that I was being Valenti, and it was. And I asked you over and over, I asked you 5 different times, are you happy with your quarterbacks? And you refused to answer it. Like, stop. Don't lie, dude. Come on. See, I can get away with doing things like this in this venue. Come on, Tim. Shoot straight, bro. Come on. Take your shot. Take your medicine at the same time, all right? All right, good. Right. Shep, I know you wanted to hit something with the Red Wings.
Yeah, just real quick, because I know we got to get rolling here, but I love the commitment to 2 young guys and Raymond Sider. The Sider contract a little bit larger than I was expecting. I think Red Wing fans have to be really pleased, and you and I both said that there's no question that we're going to get this done. It's just nice to get it done before the season. It's great to have your number 1 defenseman and a top line guy going to be here for a while, so people can buy those jerseys and know what's going to happen with this team, and a chance to, I don't want to say build around, but continue to build on what their capabilities are. They've got Larkin under for a long time, and they've got 3 key guys under a long-term contract for a long time. Kudos to Steve Yzerman.
I think he did what he had to do, Shep. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And they've got a nice little nucleus now. My concern right now, would be, are they closer to being a real competitor, or are they closer to being on the borderline? And I'm not sure about that. I got to be honest with you, especially there are 2 teams in their own division that have been really, really improved in Montreal and Buffalo. And so are they closer, Shep? Are they closer to being a real competitor, or are they closer to being in the same position that they were in last year? And I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I'm going to be really interested to see.
Well, I can tell you this, they'd be a hell of a lot further away if they didn't sign either one of those guys to a long-term deal.
You had to. Yeah, you had to.
So
you had to.
All we can do is base it on what they have done so far. Let's see what happens this year, because there's too many times, and you and I have been guilty of it. Everybody's been guilty of it. Too many times where we just assume that something's going to happen during the season. And we don't have to look very far into recent memory or recent history to figure out that's not the case. American League Central right now, okay? Who would have thought Cleveland finished 10 games under 500 last year would win the division, okay? Now, they haven't won it yet, but they've clinched a playoff spot today. Who would have thought Kansas City, dead last a year ago, would challenge for a playoff spot? Not many. Who would have thought Toronto, who made the playoffs last year with 89 wins, wouldn't make it and is going to get a reshuffling, right? Who would have thought a lot of different things? Florida State this year, for crying out loud, they're going to prove everybody wrong. They're 0-3. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody does. I just know having those guys in the fold long-term with Larkin, Veleno made a nice contract, a little bump there for a couple of years. That's a good thing. To bring in Tarasenko, there's some guys here, I think, that make you feel pretty good about where at least the team is headed. You're the one who has said you believe in Yzerman. You think he had to redo a lot there. There was a tall task. I think he's taken the right steps, and I think including these 4 young guys especially is really important. That's all.
It's a really nice nucleus, and I think you had to do that. But if we're being honest, the natives are getting restless. I know he doesn't care about the natives. He cares about doing it the right way. But to the people out there, it almost seems like there isn't a middle, Shep. You have some people that really legitimately think that the Red Wings are going to be able to compete. My jaw would drop. I'm telling you point blank, my jaw would drop. If I were a betting man, I would say, much like Tim said, that they were in about the same position that they were in last year. Maybe creeping in this time, but in terms of taking a step up and being like a legitimate threat, nah, I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
When you say threat, you mean threat to win it all, or threat to make the playoffs? Because they're a threat to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I go back to the day that Steve Yzerman was hired, and I've said this in support of him, and now I'm going to say this in maybe not so much support of him. Day one, he said the goal isn't just to get back in the playoffs. It's to compete like we did for all those years. And, here we are. This is going to be year 6. And one of the things I've been consistent about is I said, I'm not saying a word until after 5 years. I'm not. I understand what he's doing. So I haven't taken any kind of shots at Steve Yzerman up to this point, because I understand that there's a reason, Shep, I'm sure you've talked to a lot of guys. The 5-year plan is real. Okay, it is. And you could ask any general manager around the league, and they're going to use the term 5-year plan.
But it's got a lot of things got to go right for a 5-year plan too.
100%. And so this year now, in my mind, the clock starts.
Yeah.
And are the Red Wings ready to be that threat that Steve Yzerman talked about on April 19th, 2019? No, they're not.
Nope.
And that might piss some people off, but I think that's the reality of where they're at. We'll see.
I agree, but I still think it gives you reason to watch, excitement, and a belief that they can be slightly better than they were a year ago. I think a lot of things have to go right. A lot of things have to go right for a lot of teams in order for them to have success. Detroit needs a little luck.
Shep, along those lines, I think the word exciting is going to be part of this team. I think we saw the last couple months how exciting this could be. I think that's going to continue. I'm going to say it again. I think this division is going to be exciting. It's a really weird division because you have Boston, who's still dangerous, but getting long in the tooth. You have Tampa, who's still dangerous, but getting very long in the tooth. You have 1967 bitch, who's going to tease everybody through 82 games and choke in the playoffs because that's what they do.
They're young.
And then you have Florida, and then you have the young Habs, the young Sabres, and maybe just maybe a young Senators team that has a lot of talent, but there's something in the water up there in Ottawa. I think it's that Dirty Canal. But all jokes aside, Shep, this division should be the funnest division in all of hockey. I'm serious when I say that.
I agree. I mean, you said 1967 bitch. I mean, they made a new captain out of Austin Matthews, of course. Montreal, you told us a year ago, was really young. How much are they going to improve on that youth and a little sprinkling in of some veterans and stuff? So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad they got it done.
You're right.
Because it was really important for them moving forward.
No doubt. No. All right, listen, before we get out of here, if you're ready to take charge of your financial future, look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by the Handsome brothers right there. See Mike Cusack on the left side? He was one of those guys, Shep, that was totally aghast at the quarterback play at Michigan. He's one of the biggest Michigan slappies I know.
Well, he's
Mike,
smart.
I love you. He was commenting on that thread that we were talking about earlier. And the beauty of these two guys is they have over 20 years of industry experience and that they understand your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 different states. The investment world it is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it might be time to work with the experts. Reach out to my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Yanks clinch a playoff spot, said Eric. He's our resident Yankee fan.
Yeah, they did that yesterday. They did that yesterday with a 2-1 10-inning win over Seattle.
And you know what the beautiful thing about the Yankees are? It's almost like Brian Cashman is the only one that doesn't know the secret and why they lose every year. And I hope it continues. I really do. I hope. Nobody tell him, Brian, you don't need to do anything about your pitching. Don't worry about it.
I think they've done a really good job, man. I mean, what are they? 5 games clear of Baltimore now, 4.5 after Baltimore won earlier today. But I think they've done a pretty good job, and they've navigated some tough spots. I mean, everybody thinks Aaron Boone's on the hot seat. He could be if they don't make a deep playoff run. They went through a tough patch there for a while, and people were livid at him, and he was getting all kinds of pissy questions. They've righted the ship. They've been really good. It helps to have Judge doing what he's done. OPS of over 1,000. He's been unbelievable. 3rd year, he's had 50 homers or more in his career. There's not many guys who have done more than that. Okay, Sosa, McGuire, and Ruth have done it 4 times. This guy's done it 3 times.
Shep, and here's the thing that I worry about, if I'm being honest, is I'm not sure there's a pitching staff in the AL that can hypnotize the Yankees. Like, for example, we saw the Tigers do every time they faced each other. The Tigers, make no mistake about it, the Tigers beat them with pitching. We outpitched them every time, whether it be 06, whether it be 11, whether it be 12. I mean, we beat them with pitching. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's no Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer or Doug Fister on this team. So
no, Shep, I don't think anybody in the American League has a staff like that. If I had to pick right now, I'd pick the Yankees. And I'm going to go give myself a swirly and beat myself over the head with a hammer because I just said that out loud. But in the American League, it's not enough to just dip my head in the toilet. I also have to take a hammer afterwards, just so that sewage water gets into my wound and maybe I can get sepsis. That'd be great.
I'll help you.
No, but like in the American League, Shep, they're probably the favorite, right?
Oh, absolutely, they will. Yeah,
the favorite.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep on Cleveland. You talk about pitching, you talk about late inning wins, you talk about a key guy in Ramirez, and Naylor's been really good for him. It's not like I'm rooting for anybody outside the Tigers, but I mean, Cleveland's a pretty good story, and I think one of the most underrated teams in all of baseball is Milwaukee. Milwaukee has led wire to wire. They have the largest lead of any team in the division. It's pretty impressive what Milwaukee's done.
Man, if the Tigers could only get a guy like that Willie Adames, wouldn't that be something? They could get
a. All right, enjoy football tonight, brother.
Take care. Enjoy your football, Shep. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again Monday.
All right, pal. Good to talk.
All right, to you guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Enjoy football. God bless y'all.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.